Hello, and welcome to the Ovarian Club, a glimpse into conversations between two besties across countries, South Africa and France, tackling the trendiest women's wellness topics through a scientific lens. Join me, Dr. Tarryn, and health expert Emma as we explore delicate subjects related to the women's health space. We started this podcast to share our conversations to help navigate the complex women's wellness world. We hope you enjoy the podcast and take away as much from it as we've enjoyed making it. The Ovarian Club, powering life, nurturing health, shaping sustainable wellness. So, my follicle friends, let's begin.
How's it, Ta?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm like hanging in there, like little fingers of a cliff edge at the moment.
Hanging in
busy
there.
moving house and just like a lot of stuff going on right now. So sorry for the radio silence. But I'm really happy to be here with you.
Likewise. And I'm also super excited to talk creatine today. It's 100% been on my radar. I don't know about you, but I've seen it all over my social media. All the doctors are talking
Everywhere.
about it. The patients of mine are asking me about it. So I've had to do some deep diving into creatine, and I'm super excited to share with you all my findings.
Me too. Honestly, my brother, he swears by creatine. He says like changes his life. But my brother is definitely like a gym gun ho on the whole gym thing. So I mean, I thought it was very much honestly something for like bodybuilding. It very much has been perceived as something very much for men and for the male industry. But like you're totally right. It's all over my social media. It is, everyone, all the wellness influencers. And I've also actually been hearing a lot of very interesting reports on the psychological benefits. So I'm very excited to dig into that today. But before we do, it's just some disclaimers. The views on this podcast are strictly my own and of no way a reflection of the company that I work for.
Yes. And just to second that, although I am a qualified medical doctor, this podcast does not serve to offer any personal medical advice. Always seek the advice from a healthcare professional directly with regard to any condition or treatment you may be seeking. Without further ado, what do you want to know about creatine?
Literally everything, because I have to be honest with you, I know very little. I mean, So let's just start off. Like, what is creatine?
Yeah. So, let's just break it down. So what is it? It's a supplement. So that's derived from amino acids themselves, leucine, arginine, and glycine. And yes, essentially it's touted for many, many benefits, including benefits when it comes to muscle strength, brain health. So just due to all the overwhelming research that's coming out, that creatine is not simply a muscle enhancer, but it also has benefits all over the body. It's now come on every scientist's radar. Everyone wants to know about it and learn more. So creatine, it's produced actually naturally in our bodies by the liver and the kidneys, and also in the brain to a lesser extent. But you can also obtain creatine exogenously, so from the diet in the form of meat, poultry, fish. We'll get to the whole vegetarian thing later because there's some question whether vegetarians benefit more from creatine or not. But we'll get there.
That's exactly going to be my follow-up questions. You know me well.
We'll definitely cover that point. But yes, it is derived from the body. So the question of whether or not we need it, given that it's a supplement, it's up for debate. And it really depends on your needs and what you're wanting to get out of creatine.
So just to sum up, creatine is naturally found within our body. Would be interested to understand at some stage who is less creatine. Is that also different for women versus men? Yeah. But in general, you can get it from your diet. But again, it can also be given as a supplement. So I'd also be very keen to kind of understand, is it better? Is it enough through your diet, or should you be supplementing? But let's tackle how it works.
Yeah. So when it comes to how it works, let's break it down. We've got muscle, brain, bone. Let's talk about it all. So muscle. So creatine is not a protein. And it is not an anabolic steroid, because a lot of people think like creatine, bulking. I must reiterate here that it operates via a completely different mechanism. So it does not make you bulk like anabolic steroids might make you bulk. So essentially what it does is, unlike protein, it doesn't contribute directly to muscle synthesis, okay? Instead, what it does is that it increases intracellular ATP. ATP is simply the energy currency of our cells. Okay, so ATP is what provides energy to the cells. So creatine gets broken down into phosphocreatine, which via different pathways produces ATP, which makes your muscles work harder, especially when it comes to those short duration, high intensity exercises. With more ATP, it can do more essentially. And in doing more, as a result, your muscles can become more powerful, they can grow, but that's more as a result of putting in more hard work. Does that make sense? So it requires a stimulus, that is weight resistance training, in order to grow and be strong.
So if I'm hearing it correctly, basically what creatine does is it triggers this ATP or these energy reserves kind of thing within the muscular cells. And that is triggered when doing exercise. So taking creatine alone without exercise, from what I'm hearing, is not enough.
100%. And that's actually exactly what I want to emphasize in this podcast, because everyone is under the false illusion that creatine is the miracle supplement. You just have to take creatine, that's all, and you'll grow your muscles. False. And in some regard, creatine is very much overhyped, because it basically implies that if you take creatine, you'll get all the work done without putting in the work. When it comes to all patients, including women, perimenopausal women, it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. If you're not putting in the work in the form of weight resistance training, if you're not providing the stimulus, you're not going to grow your muscles, make them strong, and reap the benefits that creatine has to offer with regard to enhancing muscle strength and performance.
So I have 2 points on that. Is it only weight resistance training? And I know this goes back to Pilates versus Instagram, like weight resistance training, and weight resistance training is the holy grail. But, is it any kind of form of exercise? Can you do kind of lighter weights? Does it have to be like extreme, heavy, bulky gym weights?
So it enhances short duration, high intensity performance. So that also takes the form of HIIT, which requires bouts of energy. Creatine would be beneficial for those kind of exercises where you need more power, also to get more reps done. Those, short duration, high intensity, and then weight resistance as well. Pilates, I would say probably not.
But what about Pilates, like with weights, for example? Like what
Yeah.
weights level are we talking about? Because like, for example, I do Pilates, but like it's strength Pilates. So I'd be doing, so first of all, reformer, you obviously are pulling on weights, and it's kind of weighted with the machine that you're using.
Mm. Mm.
And then I'd use like, let's say 4 kg weights, and I can pile on, make it 5 kg weights and
Mm.
stuff like that. So weighting the Pilates, would that be sufficient? Or are we talking about like 10 kilogram weights, or what we've spoken about before is like the weights that, you really have to actually struggle with? Hopefully you don't tear a muscle in the
Mm.
process. You have to be careful with that. But the weights that you
Mm.
actually like, it's
Mm.
difficult to do 10 reps with those weights. Like what weight level are we talking about?
Well, remember, you could also be taking creatine to enhance recovery time. So, taking creatine would be beneficial for any form of exercise if your muscles fatigue and you really are finding that that turnaround time is taking longer for your body. Then, doesn't matter what exercise you're doing, taking creatine would be beneficial for that. But I would argue that the weight is relative. It depends on the amount that's difficult for you. So, what might be difficult for me is easy for you, and vice versa. So it's very difficult to say on this platform it must be this weight. But as long as your muscle is fatiguing when putting in the work, lifting that weight, yes, that would be the weight that's recommended.
And I think coming on to my second point, and you really touched on that, because you're talking a lot about kind of, building muscle mass, which is obviously very important. We've spoken about the importance of that, especially as you are entering into perimenopause, you're losing the bone density, going into menopause. So all of that kind of discussions that we've had in previous episodes. So yeah, building body mass, obviously very important. You spoke about the recovery times, which I think is really important and touch on. But there are other reasons why people are taking creatine, right? It's for cognitive functioning, it's for general energy. I've heard many things about general energy, and there's a lot which I would like to dig into around the use of creatine for anxiety, depression, and the psychological benefits that come with creatine.
Okay, so let's talk about the brain. So the brain, similarly to the muscles, also uses ATP as its energy currency. And in fact, it relies even more so on ATP, on energy, than any other part of the body, because the brain is the powerhouse of the whole body. Think of how much energy is required to make daily decisions, wake up in the morning, perform daily life functioning. ATP means everything to the brain. So the brain actually requires a lot more ATP than any other part of the body. And as a result, the creatine demands would almost be higher in the brain in order to reap the benefits that creatine has to offer. But yeah, let's first break it down. So essentially, creatine's been touted for potentially enhancing cognitive processing, supporting neuroprotection of the brain, basically also providing the neurons with energy in order to perform its functioning. So there's definitely lots out there, but all of this is actually ongoing research. I don't think we can come on this platform and say, oh, take creatine to, for example, enhance cognition, because it's all theoretical and it's not yet 100% proven.
I have seen that there are studies that are coming out that is showcasing a positive impact and very promising results with the use of creatine in combination with SSRIs, for example.
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
combination of the two has actually seen a better impact of the SSRIs than SSRIs alone. And there are
Yes.
studies that showcase, I think, with mild depression and stuff like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
positive
Yeah.
benefits. And I'm guessing because of the
Mm,
ATP and a lot of
mm,
depression is also and anxiety is because of mental load, right? And fatigue and mental fatigue and all of that comes with that. If you're suggesting that creatine can impact the ATP and therefore provide more energy, that
mm.
can probably also you can deduct, right? That would have
Yeah.
obviously a benefit then from a cognitive standpoint.
So what I wanted to just reiterate earlier was that when it comes to just enhancing cognition alone, in a healthy brain or an unhealthy brain or whatever kind of a brain, the research is not that compelling. However, when it comes to brains that are under stress, you just mentioned it, that have increased cognitive load, traumatic brain injury, patients with depression, patients that are slightly off baseline when it comes to their brain health, so it's not completely optimized. This is a different cohort of patients. And in this cohort of patients, creatine is slowly starting to show some benefits. So when it comes to depression, for example, creatine in conjunction with SSRIs, which are your selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, these are your antidepressants that patients are commonly prescribed. It's been shown that the combination has been shown to improve unipolar depression. However, I must reiterate that the effects have relatively modest, promising, but modest. So it's not first line therapy and it's not stipulated in our current guidelines. What has been proven to be even more beneficial is cognitive behavioral therapy with pharmacological intervention. Creatine is almost like the icing on top of the cake. So for now, it's like, oh, research is promising, maybe add it. But don't think to just tell yourself, okay, I've got depression, let me just take creatine and I'll be okay. Absolutely not. Consult a medical professional, take your SSRIs if prescribed, put in the work, do the cognitive behavior therapy, and then maybe consider adding creatine as the icing on the cake.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of women also kind of shy away from creatine because of that fear of bulking. But is there something that you do have kind of an impact on weight gain or anything that you are saying that obviously it's giving you the energy to do more reps and that's why you're kind of building because you're able to do more in the gym with weight resistance training and everything like that. Is there anything people do sort of say that creatine will cause you to put on weight? Is that a complete myth?
So transiently in the short term, in the acute setting, there is a bit of water retention, which is commonly noted because as the creatine gets drawn into the muscles, so too does water. So it almost like plumps up the muscles. So initially, yes, one can gain a kilo or two. It's not impossible, but this is transient. As soon as the body gets saturated with the creatine, you shed off that water ultimately, and it's not going to cause weight gain in the long term. You might gain weight as a result of putting on muscle, provided you're putting in the stimulus, you actually going to the gym and lifting weights, then yes, but it would give you a more toned look. It's going to be the good kind of kilos, right? So yes, it is a side effect that a lot of women fear, the bloating and the transient weight gain. But yeah, from my research, it definitely does resolve. So don't fear that.
Okay. And I know you kind of always go on about with vitamins and everything. Sometimes people just take a lot of vitamins and they don't actually need to. You should be doing a blood screening to check whether
Mm.
or not you are have any deficiencies and then you should then supplement for those deficiencies, but you shouldn't just be taking stuff. Is that the same with creatine or should everyone benefit and everyone should be looking to take this?
I think at the end of the day, it depends on your goals. So if you're someone who's going to the gym and you're doing all the right exercises and you personally are wanting to be more toned, but you're not seeing that result, I think it might be worthwhile trying creatine. Similarly, if you have depression, you're taking your medication, you're going for therapy, you're putting in the hard work and you're wanting to see if adding the supplement could potentially boost its effects, sure. I'm not at all saying that creatine can substitute medical therapy, but as a supplement, it could be considered a good adjunct. Provided you buy it from a good manufacturer, the adverse effects are relatively few and far between. It is contraindicated in patients who have pre-existing kidney disease, renal dysfunction. So if you have that, then obviously avoid creatine. And if you're pregnant, it's actually like not a complete contraindication, but there's no studies that have been done on pregnant women. So I cannot come here conclusively and say, oh, if you're pregnant, like take it. I mean, the side effects are few and far between. I mean, we mentioned one or two, like abdominal discomfort, bloating, transient water retention. But apart from that, it's fairly well tolerated. So I would say definitely worth considering if you're just wanting to explore it.
You mentioned vegetarians.
Yes.
And we spoke about that earlier. Vegetarians, vegans, or pescatarians.
Yes.
I mean, both of us are pescatarians. Should we be taking creatine?
Yeah. So creatine, as mentioned before, it's naturally found in animal products, meats, fish, and poultry. And as a result, there is decreased uptake in vegetarians and vegans, and they have been shown to have lower serum plasma creatine levels in the blood. So it makes sense that theoretically vegans and vegetarians would benefit from the supplement, considering they're taking less in the diet. However, overall, it appears through studies that vegetarian athletes are likely to benefit from creatine supplementation in a manner very similar to that of omnivores. So basically, what the studies show is that although there should be a theoretical benefit, when you actually look at the studies, like the effects are negligible. So for some reason or other, they perform as well if they are taking the creatine supplementation or not compared to omnivores. But I'd say if you are vegetarian or vegan, I mean, consider it, as well as like vitamin B12, other important nutrients to incorporate in the diet, just to ensure that you're getting everything in. But for now, it's because the studies are so mixed and inconclusive, it's not a guideline that all vegetarians and vegans must take it.
What should I look for if I'm looking to buy a good creatine product? What am I looking for?
Okay, so there are different types of creatine, and creatine monohydrate is the most studied form of creatine on the market. So I would definitely say if you're going to choose a creatine, don't be fooled by marketing. Simply look for plain creatine monohydrate because it has a very safe profile, and studies have shown that it's not any more superior to other forms of creatine out there on the market. So go for creatine monohydrate, and then look for a brand that doesn't have any additives, there's no proteins mixed in there. You just want to keep it simple. Just take creatine in its purest form, pure powder form. You mix it with water. I emphasize powder because it also comes in capsules. Capsules should be fine, but I'm very cautious of the creatine gummy bears. I don't know if you've seen them. But like gummy bears with all those additives and stabilizers and sugars, I do not buy that. Stay away from that. And I would also stay away from the liquid form of creatine because I don't know, it just looks a bit suspect. I rather take it in the plain powder form, and it doesn't make a difference when you take it. So take it in the morning, pre-workout, post-workout, it actually doesn't matter.
It's not something you take at night, for example. You can take it
doesn't
whenever.
matter. Take it daily.
Okay.
And
I heard it does have a very strange taste, though. So one thing to watch out for in the powder form, right?
Yeah, so I actually don't supplement with creatine, but it's not because I don't like buy all the beautiful benefits that there is to it. I just feel like I'm personally gaining muscle. I'm putting in the work. I'm seeing the results that I want to see. I don't fortunately have any issues with my brain or my sleep or cognitive load, all of that. So I'm functioning relatively optimally with my brain. So I don't feel like I need it right now. The moment I feel like I will that I stop putting on muscle, or like my brain feels under stress, or I'm feeling low or whatever, the moment I feel like I'm open to starting supplementing, I'll do so. But I'm saying this because I don't supplement. I don't know what it tastes like. So I actually bought it for my father, and I'm convinced that my dad bless his soul. I think he would really benefit from it because he's putting in all the weight resistance training at gym. And I mean, he's seeing great effects, but I just think that it'll be this extra boost for him. So I consulted his personal trainer and we're on board. And because my dad, it takes a lot for him to, to like, I don't know, take any medicine. Well, not that it's a medicine, but you know what I mean? So I went and bought it for him. And then I showed him, I opened up the package, I scooped it out, I was showing him how to take it. And then I tasted it, obviously. And it actually tastes really good. Like it was sweeter than I thought. I just put the plain creatine monohydrate, no additives, no sugars. And it was actually quite pleasant tasting, I must say.
I can imagine that. I can really, you've conjured up an exact image of your dad with that. I can definitely picture that one.
Sitting there with the scale, with the scoop.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, the same thing applies when it comes to all supplements. Check that it's certified. Just make sure that there's no contaminants. Yeah, there's no contaminants and yeah.
Is there anything you should be taking? I know you said take creatine by itself. And I think I've also pronounced creatine like 5 different ways just in this episode alone. So that's definitely something. Creatine. That's my weird accent coming out now.
Yeah.
But you're saying like take it in powder form in a glass of water. Certain vitamins, right, work very well when you combine them. So like vitamin C and zinc, for example, it's like a carrier or whatever it's called. Certain vitamins work very well together. Are there any vitamins you should be taking with creatine specifically to kind of enhance it, or creatine maybe enhances another vitamin, or is it just take it by itself and figure out what are the other vitamins you need to take based on your deficiency?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you mentioned at the end based on your deficiency, because I'm very cautious to promote taking any supplements, any vitamins, provided you are deficient in a vitamin or mineral or whatever, what have you. So yeah, okay, well, in answer to your question, there's no vitamin or mineral that you need to take to enhance its absorption. You don't have to take it with anything. And yeah, I mean, you'd obviously want to be focusing on protein in your diet as well as an adjunct with the creatine to like help put on the muscle. But at the end of the day, what's more important than protein is actually weight resistance training.
And is there any difference between men and women? Is there a difference in how much a man should take versus a woman? Is there a difference in how much you should be taking? First of all, what is the optimal dosing? And then is there any kind of difference if you're a man or a woman, or if you have a certain age, if you're menopause, if you're, or
Okay.
is it all equal?
Okay, so let's talk about the different dosing. So many different guidelines. I'm going to try simplify it for you guys because I was very confused looking at the literature, because there's different protocols that one could implement. So when it comes to promoting muscle health and power, strength, you could break it down into the loading phase protocol, where there's a big loading phase, 20 to 25 grams of creatine over 5 days. That's a lot. And then followed by a maintenance phase, which is 3 to 5 grams a day. There's that protocol. Some individuals might opt for that. What's more commonly used is just the daily maintenance dose, 3 to 5 grams a day. And it actually has been shown to be as beneficial when it comes to muscle health. Okay, so there's no need to go loading dose when it comes to muscles. Just take the maintenance dose, 3 to 5 grams a day, and you'll be good. When it comes to the brain, however, higher doses are needed, a lot more. They say it's 10 grams minimum, 10 to 20. I mean, the product, there's no one like gram that I can cite here on this podcast, because every paper says something different. But on the whole, it's higher, say 10 to 20 grams a day. And this is because the creatine has to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is like the membrane that bathes our brain. So 5 grams a day, our muscles will basically soak it up. It's not even going to get to the brain. So you need to take 10 grams minimum.
And is there a difference between men and women? Should men be taking more than women?
It's similar. So women do exhibit 70 to 80% lower endogenous creatine stores than males. This is a fact. So in theory, women should maybe consider taking a little bit more, but the effects are so marginal that, just to simplify things, I'd say 3 to 5 grams a day, whether you're male or female. If you're wanting to reap all the muscle benefits, then 3 to 5 grams, it's fine. Like, let's not get all confused in the literature here. 3 to 5 grams a day is perfect. whether you're male or female. And the same applies to perimenopausal women, menopausal women. I feel like there's all this marketing going out there, touted that like creatine is like a must-have supplement for perimenopausal women. And it doesn't sit comfortably with me because it almost implies that women really need to rely on creatine. When at the end of the day, creatine is not a miracle supplement. It's not going to do you any good if you're not putting in the work. So what's
But it
more
will
important?
really help you, right? So
Yeah,
doing the work alone may
yeah,
not be as good as taking creatine then on top of that. So you could be putting in the work, but then
right.
if you are menopausal or perimenopausal,
Mm,
we know how important weight resistance training is. And if
yeah.
creatine is only going to like enhance that, then I would imagine it is more important, right?
So for now, current data suggests that creatine supplementation, it promotes a small increase in skeletal muscle hypertrophy, which is basically an increase in muscle mass when combined with resistance training program. So those considering creatine supplementation for the goal of muscle growth and hypertrophy alone should consider the practical significance of such a small magnitude of effect. Basically, creatine alone, the effects are so marginal.
So in conclusion, I don't know, it sounds like your opinions of creatine are a bit kind of mixed, right? It's like if you're doing weight resistance training or exercise, which you have to do
Hmm.
in order to see the benefits of creatine, but it does seem to help, right? So I
Yeah.
don't know, that's where I kind of see some kind of contradictions in what you're saying now
Yeah.
versus what
Yeah.
we discussed earlier. And then also in terms of recovery timelines, right? If you can
Mm.
recover quicker or better,
Mm.
that means you're
Mm.
less prone to injuries. It means that you're more prone to be doing the exercise correctly the next day or being able to work out the next day. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more things. And then on top of it all, from a cognitive standpoint, again, if you do have depression or you do have this,
Mm.
which we also know is more likely in a woman perimenopause and menopause, right?
Correct.
Because they
Correct.
are do have a higher mental load, but also because of the
Yeah.
estrogen fluctuations, everything else that's happening in the body.
Yeah.
Like, actually, yes, you should be taking it, but you have to do the exercise and everything like that.
Yeah, I think you actually summarized it really well now. So I do want to emphasize that when it comes to muscle synthesis and muscle repair and enhancing recovery time, creatine has been shown to be beneficial. And also when it comes to the brain, those brains under stress, beneficial. We didn't discuss bones yet, but it was previously touted to be good for bone health in stimulating osteoblast activity and all of that. That the results there are completely like they show that it does not promote bone health. What does promote bone health is good muscles coating the bones, right? That can indirectly have a very positive effect on bone health. But basically, yes, the benefits are there. So I think to wrap up, 100% beneficial, I would say, but it's not the miracle cure. So what's more important than anything when it comes to muscle is actually the stimulus itself. So I just want to come on this platform here and say, if you're sitting on the fence, yes or no, first know that you're doing weight resistance training. That's step number one. Then you can consider creatine as an add on for all its purported benefits when it comes to the muscle that we discussed earlier. When it comes to brain health, yes, at higher doses, it has been shown to be beneficial. If you're someone suffering from unipolar depression or sleep disturbances or your brain is under stress, you might benefit from it. Someone with a healthy brain, nah, the effects will probably be negligible. So not all perimenopausal women would benefit from it if they're putting in the work and they're not suffering
Yeah.
from like brain issues. You know what
Or
I mean?
would benefit from it, but it's not like the imperative must have.
I think that's the point that I want to come forward and illustrate on this podcast is that I don't think it's like as miracle supplements as everyone else is making it out to be. I think the research is promising, and I would definitely say watch the space.
I'm very curious about what you were saying about the sleep stuff and which
Mm.
sleep issues creatine
Yeah.
does help with, just given my kind of
Yes.
sleep issues and
Yeah.
ongoing sleep problems. I'm
Yeah.
very curious to understand, is that something I should be taking then at high doses for my sleep with my
So
magnesium?
Yeah, so it may have indirect benefits on sleep by reducing cognitive load. So, like stress, but as I've been saying the whole podcast, it's not the game changer. So, patients that are suffering from insomnia still need to consult a healthcare professional, have a full psychiatric medical evaluation. I would still caveat this and say that certain sleeping pills would be have been shown to be more beneficial at promoting sleep. But if you're someone who just you've exhausted all your options, you've tried everything, consult a healthcare professional and maybe consider also taking creatine. I don't think it can do you any harm if you're wanting to explore its benefits with sleep.
So I think to kind of wrap up, super interesting conversation. Sounds like you're definitely on the fence about this one and not completely sold. And I think I've come away being like, where do I find the like nearest stockist of creatine?
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Honestly, thank you everyone for listening in. We hope that this shed some light on creatine. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to follow us on @the Ovarian Club on Instagram. And please also do hit follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube and all our different channels. And please do spread the word and let us know if you have any other topics that you want to hear from us about.
Yeah, thanks so much for listening. And yeah, don't forget to always drop us a DM. You can DM us on Instagram. You can email us. We are here for you. We find it really, really exciting doing the research and just having these conversations. Emma and I always look so forward to it. So thank you again for tuning in. And yeah, we'll see you next time. The Ovarian Club, powering life, nurturing health, shaping sustainable wellness. See you soon, follicle friends.